this monorail is exempt. They exempted the monorail from any safety standards or inspections. One of the things they tried to do was put restrictive covenants on the land that the district owns. What should we do with this land? And so, it's like, okay, people have said maybe create a state park, maybe try to do more amusement parks. Someone even said maybe you need another state prison. Who knows? I just think that the possibilities are endless.
Hey everyone, Brayden here, coming to you with a breaking Disney news update. I thought we'd be in the clear till Wednesday. That's when the next big shoe is supposed to drop. That is going to be the next convening of the new state-appointed Reedy Creek Board. Reedy Creek being the governing body, the local governing body that oversees Walt Disney World. Apparently at that meeting Wednesday, they are going to be voting to dissolve the developers agreement that Disney got through last minute, which currently nullifies the new board's power. How the board will be able to do that, I have no idea. At the last meeting, their own lawyers made it sound like they couldn't, and they'd have to take this to the Supreme Court. But now, Governor Ron DeSantis, he has just claimed at a press conference at Walt Disney World inside of the Reedy Creek Administrative Building, where he made some crazy announcements. He said that they're going to be able to dissolve this developers agreement, which is currently tying their hands, preventing the realization of the vision that the Florida state legislature had signed into law back in February. In this press conference that Ron DeSantis just hosted at Walt Disney World, there was a lot of retaliatory type of stuff in there. One thing in particular I know, as a matter of fact, Disney really would not like if it actually happened. The Florida legislature is drafting legislation for next week, which will remove Disney's protections from state inspections of rides, giving the Florida Department of Agriculture the power to go into Disney World and inspect Disney rides, and that includes the monorails, our beloved iconic duct tape monorails, as their creator Bob Gurr often calls them, because our current monorails at Walt Disney World are really old. You better not touch those, DeSantis. Those are icons. Before we even get to the clips, I'm going to give you my take right off the bat. This press conference was an absolute circus. As you saw right there at the top, he's talking about putting a state prison inside of Walt Disney World. That'll show Disney. I do think a lot of this is an act, which is very intentional on Ron DeSantis's part. I think he's throwing out a lot of crazy ideas in an attempt to force Disney to the negotiating table. Will that work? Let me know what you guys think. I will say I am of the belief that Disney has not a whole lot of interest in getting into a protracted, many years long legal battle with the state. Disney has shareholders to answer to. It would be very costly, very expensive. But on the other hand, we also know Disney is thinking, hey, we can wait out DeSantis. He won't be governor forever. This is going to lose steam at some point. We have our developer agreement. We have our world-class lawyers. But here's the issue. If DeSantis dissolves their developers agreement this Wednesday, which it seems like they're going to do, which could be illegal, but even if it is illegal, where's that going to be litigated? It's going to be litigated in court. It's going to be tied up in court. And while that drama is happening, maybe he's going to be out there building amusement parks for other companies on property, shutting rides down, saying they're unsafe, building prisons, near the Magic Kingdom. Who the heck knows what they're gonna do? This really seems like a personal thing that just gets nastier and nastier by the day. Maybe the state can go so crazy that Disney just says this is way too much, and they're able to force the mouse to bend to the will of the state. I think that is the idea that DeSantis has going into all of this, the way he's talking. You can tell he's the smile, the smirks, you can tell he's running an operation for sure. So first up, insofar as what happened with this press conference, today DeSantis announced that the state legislature is looking to remove protections Disney has currently, which exempt them from regular state inspections for attractions and things like that, which other smaller amusement companies are subject to. And that includes the monorails.
We want to make sure that Disney lives under the same laws as everybody else. And some of that has already been underway. Once the state board took over, we began mobilizing state agencies to ensure that Disney's following the same rules. Building inspection, safety, all these other things that they were exempt from when everybody else has to follow. Now, if these are not good laws, then everyone should be exempt. You shouldn't just say one corporation should be exempt. You know, this monorail is exempt. They exempted the monorail from any safety standards or inspections, so they're going to go and make sure that the monorail is subject to oversight, just like everything else would be in the state of Florida.
Needless to say, Disney would not be a fan of that. I know as a matter of fact, state inspections is something that Disney has been fearful of for a long time, has not wanted to happen. That would be pretty insane. Also, there's a lot of stuff in this press conference that just isn't true. It's not true that the monorails aren't subjected to inspections. They are subjected to inspections. They're legally required to do inspections. It's just you're allowed to do those inspections in-house. Same with Disney's attractions. Disney is legally required to have full-time inspectors on staff in order to enjoy the current rules that they do, the current exemption that they have from letting in state inspectors and having them mess around with stuff. To DeSantis' point, there is a big difference between having state inspections where they're not beholden to Disney as their employer. But I think in this case, it's especially interesting because the state has some interesting motives, vendetta maybe, where they'd be extra prone to trying to mess around with Disney's day-to-day operations, which Disney would not appreciate. I said on Twitter, on the bright side, hey, if state inspectors start poking around Disney World, you know, maybe they'll find the inside of Space Mountain, and boom, we'd suddenly have new track, we'd have onboard ride audio, a huge upgrade to Space Mountain. Maybe that would finally compel Disney to do that. Next up, we have some comments on the land Reedy Creek allegedly owns on and around property and what could possibly be done with it. This is insane.
You know, one of the things they tried to do was put restrictive covenants on the land that the district owns. So if you look at this whole special district, Walt Disney Corporation obviously owns a lot of it, but the district owns other land. And, you know, quite frankly, I wasn't even thinking about that land. This was not something that was really important one way or another. We just wanted them to live under the same rules, pay the debt, pay the taxes, all that stuff. Oh, but come to think of it, now people are like, well, what should we do with this land? And so, you know, it's like, okay, kids, I mean, people have said, you know, maybe have maybe create a state park, maybe try to do more amusement parks. Someone even said, like, maybe you need another state prison. Who knows? I mean, I just think that the possibilities are endless, and so that is now going to be analyzed to see what would make the most sense, and that wasn't necessarily even on the radar.
Found that a little interesting. There were also other speakers who spoke after DeSantis. Here is what another speaker had to say at the conference, which got a lot of applause from the audience there.
When Walt Disney founded this company and brought his beloved theme park to Central Florida, he envisioned the happiest place on earth dedicated to the proposition that children and families deserved a high-quality entertainment. They have pushed far-left narratives and lies about our great state, and now they think that the rules don't apply to them. Well, I have news for the woke administration at Disney, that this is not California. This is the free state of Florida. As our great governor has said, Florida is the place where woke goes to die. Thank you.
I think you're going to see a lot of action from the state board's perspective on Wednesday and then in the ensuing weeks. And I think it's all about making sure that the vision is made into a reality where, you know, this company is under the law, following the law, paying taxes, and honoring the debts.
I think that, you know, even though this is a circus and it's a lot of theater, you know, a lot of these threats that DeSantis is making, I do think that they could result in some material effect day to day at Walt Disney World. Because think about how these statements could affect the parks, right? So on the one hand, it could result in Disney folding and saying, we don't want to deal with all this stuff. Please do not do this stuff to us. We're fine with your state board. And now the state would have their fingers in day-to-day operations at Disney, or Disney stays strong. And frankly, I have no doubt that there is some bite behind some of this bark, and some of these things that they're talking about will be passed through the legislature, will actually go into effect if Disney doesn't bend the knee. So either way, you know, theatrics, circus, politics, all that aside, there is a very real risk of some actual real world consequences for these things that we are hearing about here. Can you imagine there being a state prison on Disney World property? That just sounds absolutely crazy. Or, you know, there's rides closed because DeSantis' people came in and they they said, we're closing this ride. We found something that we don't like. That would be pretty insane. Honestly, I'm more looking forward to the Reedy Creek board meeting that is taking place on Wednesday, which will have the drama component there too, I'm sure to some extent, but we are likely to have comments from council regarding what they've learned as far as the developer agreements go, the stuff that they've been looking over the past few weeks since their last report. And it also sounds like we'll be witnessing something of substance finally happening, with the board possibly voting to dissolve the developers agreement that we were told at the last meeting they couldn't resolve. So we'll see what happens with all this. It all sounds quite crazy. Make sure you're subscribed to those notifications on so I can bring you the news as soon as we get it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. From the Mickey V's Magic Studio, this is Brayden. Have a magical day.